Well, it's actually been great that I just finished 3 weeks of traveling to see all of our hotels around the world. I was in Singapore at the beginning of the month, met with many of our hotels from the Asia Pacific region, from India, from Malaysia, from Singapore, from Australia, and their sentiment is all very positive, which is great to see. I followed that by a trip to Miami, where we were meeting with our hotels from the Americas, where things have been very much ahead of 2019 pace for the entire year. And then earlier this week, we were with our hotels from the European region, and everyone is feeling very positive and optimistic about the future, despite what is happening in the world, and we can't ignore any of that. But the growth opportunities for both us and for our hotels come in a couple areas. So on the growth side for the brand, we see us continuing to grow our footprint. Today we have 650 hotels in over 80 countries, which is a great size portfolio. We cover the world in terms of where we have opportunity for guests to stay, but we also see that there's more opportunity for growth in all parts of the world. People always ask me, well, what specifically parts of the world? But the truth is it's in a lot of places. So we have, in the last couple of years, we've actually welcomed over 100 new hotels to the portfolio, which is fantastic. And what's also interesting is many of them are actually brand new hotels. So they're not just conversions from other brands, but rather new hotels. So, for example, just in the last few months, the Somero has opened in Oslo, the Fullerton Ocean Park in Hong Kong, and the Wall Street Hotel in New York. So all of those are brand new hotels, which is really exciting to see a couple of things. One is that there are people still investing in the hotel market, which we see happening a lot, and that people understanding that people want to stay in hotels, and that a hotel investment is a worthwhile one, and that there's demand. There's demand for the guests to be coming there. So we see a lot of opportunity in terms of expanding our growth. In the European market, we have over 200 hotels right now, and we're aggressive in our growth plans there. In the Middle East, we have 33 hotels, and there's a lot coming up in that region as well. And the U.S. has always been our biggest market, but that continues to grow as well. In Latin America, we have close to 80 hotels, in Mexico and in South America. And then as we move over into Asia Pacific, I've got about 100 hotels over there across Japan and mainland China, Hong Kong, Singapore, and the other areas of Asia Pacific. So growth is definitely, in unit growth, is a big opportunity for us. And more importantly, it's also driving revenue into our hotels. So that's another opportunity where we have a lot of focus. And one of our main drivers of that is I Prefer Hotel Rewards, which is our loyalty program, which is now 4.5 million people, which is fantastic. We saw that this group of people were truly the ones who started to travel even in 2020, even in late 2020, when some restrictions became a little less. That was the group of people who were starting to travel, although very regionally. That was the group who wanted to hear from us and who responded to what we were informing them about, which the message, of course, at that time was more about safety and security and cleanliness. But once they heard that message, they were traveling. A lot of drive market, a lot of backyard stays, but that I Prefer member has proven really valuable, and they continue to travel through 2021 and through this year as well. And with that, we spent a lot of time internally actually improving the program on the back-end technology side, which allowed us to put a lot of programs in place that our customers were asking us for. So that included things like reward nights, so being able to redeem points for reward nights. So now our guests can redeem points for certificates, which have a cash value, so they can put it against a room stay. Or at certain levels of points, they can redeem it for a full stay. And then we just introduced Reward Nights Plus, which allows them to do points in cash to redeem their points. So bringing more variety to them. We also introduced I Prefer Auctions, which was a way for our hotels to offer more than just a stay, but to offer experiences, a dinner on a catamaran or a catered meal at home. We also have some partners with I Prefer, so they were able to redeem points for experiences with partners. So auctions were a huge hit with our customers. And then earlier this year, we launched I Prefer gift cards. So guests can redeem points for gift cards to give to other people, or you can just purchase gift cards. So we've spent a lot of time on the back end, like I said, in this idea of putting the standards into place for I Prefer and putting in the mechanisms that our guests were asking for. And coming up this year, actually, we're going to be relaunching end of this year, beginning of next year, a new look and feel for I Prefer, a brand new website, even more inspiration relative to travel and experiences, and just more of the kinds of things guests are looking for, like where have I stayed in the past, what's coming up, putting on a bucket list, those kinds of things that help to kind of pinpoint where you've been and where you want to go, as well as track your points and things like that. So, so again, it's really the growth in our number of units that's a hot growth area for us, as well as the I Prefer Hotel Rewards program. Probably the number one thing in Shift is that we see our guests prioritizing quality over quantity. And I think that holds true whether it's leisure travel or business travel, or even that new combination of leisure travel. But it's really all about the quality of what they're doing. So, for example, on a business trip, instead of coming to a city 3 times, I'm going to come once, and I'm going to make sure that every interaction that I have has purpose, whether it's for a conference and then a media appointment and then seeing hoteliers or other partners that I need to see. So it's really about that quality of the visit, not how many times I make a trip. And again, we see that on the leisure side as well. We actually just had in one of our conferences that we've been meeting with our hoteliers on, we had American Express share some of their recent data in their Amex spend trends that they were doing. And interestingly, 62% of their surveyed cardholders, and this was a global survey, are really interested in purposeful travel. And it goes beyond the leisure side into the business side and vice versa. So when we start to talk about purposeful travel, and I think that's a lot of the individual traveler who is planning more of that leisure visit, is looking for reasons to go somewhere. They're looking for places that make a difference in their community, and really just putting a lot more thought into how and where they're traveling. And I'll go back to my leisure traveler, right? You have to make it easy. Hotels have to make it easy for the guest to go from a work environment into a leisure environment, right? And so a hotel has to have things that are focused on both of those. So I'll give an example is like a lobby, right? A lobby used to just be a place to hang out and meet people. But now I may want to go down and work in the lobby. So are there plugs nearby? Are there things that make it easy for me to work? And at the same time, not just spread out and suddenly disrupt somebody else's stay. So those kinds of things, having other meeting spaces. So if I am going to have a meeting at the hotel, that there's niches and things like that in the lobby. So that easy transition from work to leisure and leisure to work, because it does work both ways, I think is another important need that we're seeing. And I don't think people are saying it out loud, but they're looking for the places that have that, and they're gravitating toward it. I also think that people are looking for ways to support communities. So they're looking for independent hotels, they're looking for small businesses, for local businesses. And that's just all getting back to that idea of quality. And it's not to say that people weren't looking for quality before, but I think it's a much more enriching and 360-degree view of their travel experience. And that's definitely supported by statistics from the research that we look at, but also from what we see the guests are asking for, and then how hotels are responding to that and what the guests are responding to in the hotels. One of them is this idea of bucket list travel, or getting to that dream destination. So that's definitely a trend that I think is here to stay, because people are booking all of those trips. And I think throwing a little caution maybe to the wind and saying, we're going to do this because we may not have the opportunity, so let's go ahead and do it. So, family travel and multi-generational travel has been around for a while, but more and more we're seeing that that's what people are looking for. We actually even just launched a program called, in our Where Next campaign, is Where Next, where hotels are offering like entire floor buyouts. So we've got, I think, 155 hotels that are catering to that. So I want to come with my aunts and my uncles and my sisters and my grandchildren, all those kinds of things, and buy out an entire floor. So the buyout program is going really well. We also have residences. We have preferred residences. We have 85 properties that are either a single chalet up in the mountain, or they are residential properties where all of their units are equipped with kitchens and things like that, or it's a mix of a resort with residences as well. That whole residential experience, I think, is also really popular, and it piggybacks on the whole idea of family travel. More and more, I'm personally hearing, and there's data that backs this up too, that people are traveling for experiences, and that could be a lot of entertainment, sporting events, and outside of their own backyards. And then, of course, there's people who are moving into outdoor experiences and more adventure and seeing national landmarks and, again, things that, oh, I'll get there someday, but pandemic-wise, suddenly was, but will I ever get there? And so now I'm going to go do that because there are historical things that I want to see or experiences that I want to go through that I thought I had the rest of my life to experience, but maybe, who knows what's going to happen. So there's a lot of those kinds of things that are happening. Those are big ones. And then, of course, sustainable travel. And a sister company, a sister brand to Preferred Hotels and Resorts is our Beyond Green hotel brand, which we actually launched in April of 2021. Yes, in the middle of the pandemic. But we have 30 properties in that group of hotels right now, and they are all leaders in sustainable tourism. So we have properties like the Le Fay resorts in Italy that are eco-friendly, and the three pillars of Beyond Green are nature, community, and culture. So the hotels that are in that brand have to exemplify, again, leadership in all of those areas and give back to the community and have things in place that are environmentally conscious. And this is beyond plastic bottles. This is things like the Brando in French Polynesia, who their entire air conditioning system and all that is actually under sea level, and so the cool air is brought in from there into the resort. The Ranch at Laguna, which is a golf place in Laguna in California, they have their own glass crusher on property where they crush all the glass and then they use that to fill in the sand on their golf course. So, again, true leaders in the space, which the guests are asking for. And that's also a really interesting thing. I think people have been asking for it for a while, but not necessarily making their choices based on that. But the guests are indeed asking more questions about it, and I believe making some choices against it. Even in the business side, we see the same thing in the RFPs that are coming in for groups and for corporations. Is they are asking more questions about it, and not in every case, but in a lot of cases, making decisions based on what the answers are to those questions. Okay, that's always a very hard question with 650 hotels in 80 countries. Always a hard question to answer, as is what's my favorite. So I'm glad you didn't answer what my favorite is. But next on the list, I think I want to get to some of our newer properties that have joined in the last year or so. So that includes like the Samaro in Oslo, which is a beautiful preservation project in Oslo. I believe it's the first one in the city. It's a 1930s historic building that was restored. I also hear they have an awesome rooftop pool. And if I'm not mistaken, the only rooftop pool that's open year-round in Oslo. So that's one to definitely get to. Another one is Pasalacqua on Lake Como, which is actually a sister property to Grand Hotel Tremezzo, which is also part of Preferred. And it's a very small boutique hotel that is supposed to be just the most welcoming and exquisite place to be spending time in Lake Como. First of all, the destination, who can beat that? But also Enalia Harbor and Residences in Malta is another one that's out there and just opened as well. Finally, the two Le Fay properties, La Garda and the Dolomites. And both of those, again, are sustainable hotels. They've also just become part of our Beyond Green brand, so they're part of Preferred and Beyond Green, and have a lot of wellness offerings and things that are catering to that type of traveler. So those are just some of the new ones I'd like to get to. Between myself and Lindsay, our CEO, we kind of map out our travel schedules for the year and are always trying to hit and get to as many properties as we can, and we're very fortunate.